Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 3, I was about to say Series 7, Episode 7, 42. The title, in a reference to the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, is what 42, the title of the episode, is a reference to, the answer to the question as posed by Douglas Adams in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I was trying to remember it earlier, and I couldn't quite remember the full question, but then I watched part of the video and recording this before carrying on with the rest of that video. So I'm just popping this in to replace the bit where I couldn't quite remember. Apologise for that. Anyway, back to me with the rest of the review. But it's a reference to Douglas Adams. Also the fact that they've only got 42 minutes before a ship called the SS Pentelion. Fun fact, it was originally going to be called the SS Icarus. But a movie apparently was going to use that title as well, that name for a ship as well, so they changed it to Pentelion. Before it crashes into the sun. So the plot of the episode sees the Doctor and Martha arrive on a cargo ship called the SS Pentelion, and they have 42 minutes before they crash into a living sun, as they have been stealing stuff off the top, fuel reserves from the sun, and putting it into their ship, so the sun's now causing it to crash into the planet, into itself. Of course, nobody knows exactly why they're crashing at this point until later on when they find out. So, 42. And it's the only story of Doctor Who to solely be given just a number title, 42. Yeah, we've got other episodes like Orphan 55, and that's the only one I can think of at the moment. At least for TV, some of the audios have some titles like Catch 1782, which is a good audio. Okay, so 42, written by Chris Chibnall, who is now currently the showrunner of Doctor Who at the present time of this review being filmed. So what's this story like? Well, pretty damn good. I think this is a pretty fun story. Some good science stuff and some good side characters. And there's seven crew members of the SS Pentelion, so a bit like the film Alien. Unlike Alien, however, it gets rid of its... well, Alien has 2 female crew members. This one's got 3, but it gets rid of 2 of them pretty quickly, including Vinette Robinson, who would go on to be in the Chris Chibnall era as Rosa Parks in Rosa, and also would be Sally Donovan in Sherlock, series 1 to 3, as well as also Emily Cratchit in the recent A Christmas Carol adaptation that I reviewed on the main channel not too long ago. Here she plays the first victim to die, a medical officer, I believe, on the ship, which is a shame. She's a great actress, so it would have been nice to see her stick around a bit longer. Never mind, the character's pretty good for what she gets here. And we'll see her again in Doctor Who, of course, in a much bigger side supporting role in a few years' time. Rosa Parks. Rosa's a great episode. Trust me, it is great. Speaking of the other characters, there's the other female crew member besides the captain is probably the least interesting, so I won't talk much about her. She doesn't do an awful lot, and she's not that good, to be honest. The actress does a good job in what she's got, but ultimately the character's not that interesting. I'd rather see more of that of Vinette Robinson's character than this one. And she dies not too long afterwards, so oh well. The captain herself, however, is probably the most interesting crew member, and Kath MacDonald, she's a great character. She's quite fun, and the actress does a great job with her. There's also an emotional edge with her, as her husband, Corin, is the first person to be infected by the sun, and he's the one who kills Abby. That's Vinette Robinson's character, and I can't remember the other character's name, but the other girl who dies, and then he affects his mate Ashton, who becomes the second person infected. This time not by staring into the sun like Corwin or later on the Doctor, but Corwin just touches his head and just kind of possesses him like that, and then sends Ashton after Martha and another character whose name I can't remember. Is it Riley? Yeah, and it's the other guy I can't remember, the one that sticks around with MacDonald for a while. MacDonald and the Doctor as well. So yeah, he goes after them. Meanwhile, the Doctor and the other crew members are trying to fix the ship before things start going awry, and eventually Ashton causes Martha and Riley. Is it Scanlan? Scanlan's the other guy, I think. I'm not quite sure. But Martha and I think Riley, one of the other male crew members, they have to get into an escape pod to escape Ashton, and the Doctor has to eventually have to bring the pod back. And it's after it's after looking into the sun that the Doctor realizes, finds out the information. But he thankfully, as being a Time Lord, he's able to try and block the sun trying to possess him and get Martha to try and get him a way out of it. Eventually, the crew have to give back the fuel that they took from the sun. They have to give it back in order for them to escape. However, by that point, there's only 2 crew members left, besides the Doctor and Martha, and that's the guy Martha was with, and the other guy, Kath, sacrifices himself to save the crew and take Jinko and fall out of an airlock, and Ash, she deals with Ashton as well. So, yeah, it's a pretty good supporting cast here, apart from one of the female crew members, the second victim. She just isn't that interesting. To be honest, the next least interesting people are probably the 2 male survivors that get out there. Specifically the one that's helping the Doctor. The one with Martha gets a bit of some moments with her as well. But some decent supporting characters. There's not a huge amount of guest characters, but I don't think there's been enough time to flesh some of them out, let alone all of them. It would have been interesting if the story was maybe longer. I mean, it fits as a single parter really well, but maybe if it was longer, maybe if it was an hour long, perhaps we could learn some more about some of the other crew members who don't get much screen time. But nevertheless, it's still a nice little crew and some really good side characters and some really great moments with them. There's also a side plot going on with Martha calling her mother because the Doctor's now giving her similar to what he gave to Rose in The End of the World, except he sonics the phone rather than the thing in the chip in the back or whatever it was. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. And Martha called her mum a few times, and on the second and third calls, we can see that some mysterious people are monitoring this call for some reason, as they seem to want to get information from Francine about Martha and the Doctor for a certain Mr. Saxon. Yeah, he's looking like he's not going to be an ally of the Doctor after all. Oh dear. But these mysterious people are collecting the information, and I don't know if they're there for the first call, but maybe that's when they picked it up. Maybe like, oh, she's calling her mum. Maybe we should go and see what it's about. Maybe we can ask her if we can monitor some calls, get some information out. And of course, Francine, believing the stuff that the mysterious man in the Lazarus experiment told her, obliges. Plus, maybe she didn't have much of a choice. Also, it's election day, but naturally, she's not going to say who she voted for. I wouldn't be surprised if she voted for Saxon, though. That might come back to bite her. Anyway, so characters are good. The setting's pretty good. The writing itself, the story, I think is pretty decent. Although there is some hints of what some of Chibnall's scripts in series 11 and 12 are like, with some moments of dialogue that just states a little bit of the obvious a few times, however not as bad as what it would become later on down the line. Look, I have both positive and negative things about series 11 and 12, so I'm not going to overly gush or rip at either of them, and the same can be said for all of the other and the same can be said for the other 36 seasons. It's all equal most of the time. Sometimes more things are positive and more things are negative, but for the most part, as far as seasons are compared, as far as all 38 seasons as a whole are concerned, most of it is mixed. So most of it is pretty equal. There's positive and negative. So I'm not going to gush or rip into series 11 and 12 more than I would for seasons 1 to 26 or series 1 to 10. Okay? Some of the editing's a little bit questionable here, but it's still done really well, and none of those stupid pan transition shots that I've been complaining about for most of the past couple of reviews of this series, and the ones that I've complained a lot about in Runaway Bride, Smith and Jones, and Daleks, Evolution of the Daleks had it, Lazarus Experiment might have had it, Gridlock might have had it. I don't think Shakespeare Code might have had it. It was Shakespeare Code or Gridlock. Daleks Manhattan probably didn't, but Evolution did. But 42, we kind of move away from that. I'm not going to say it's stopped yet. We'll see how it goes. But they've moved away from that. And Graham Harper is directing this story. And he does a really good job, as does the cinematographer. There's a lot of faster paced camera movements, but nothing that looks too awkward. It's but nothing that looks too awkward. It maybe feels a bit more awkward in the moment, but it's certainly works on creating atmosphere and excitement and adrenaline. I think a mixture of a good script and some great directing works to make this a pretty good story. I think it's quite enjoyable and some really great visual effects, as well as some great practical work. On the whole, 42 is a good Doctor Who story, and it works really well and really enjoyable, and it's pretty fun and entertaining. It's probably going to be overshadowed by quite a few other stories of this season, so it's probably going to be the least remembered, I think. I think it's the least remembered of the series, but it's still a pretty good and really enjoyable story. A few other things to note: the Doctor's got himself a new spacesuit to wear in the story, though I think it's the one and only time he wears this particular suit. He sticks to his Sanctuary Base 6 one most of the time. Then again, he can't get to the TARDIS in this story, so he's got to use this spacesuit. Secondly, he gives Martha a key at the very end, so she's a frequent traveller, just like with the phone, it's a privilege. And finally, and the same thing could be said for Lazarus Experiment a few times, but Murray Gold reuses this kind of musical cue from The Impossible Planet and the Sanctum Pit quite a few times in this story. And I think he did it once or twice, or a couple of times anyway, in Lazarus Experiment as well. But to be honest, I think that music cue should have stayed exclusively for The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, because it's the music that that implies the Beast. Sometimes here it works pretty well, but sometimes it not so much, and I think it does get overused quite a bit. A music cue or track that gets overused by Murray Gold in several episodes. Gee, that's not normal, is it? I think that's really all I can say about this story at the moment. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to be giving 42 again, debating whether this should be a 7 or 8 out of 10. I think it's a pretty solid episode, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, it might be one of the weaker episodes of the series, but considering how great this series is going, that's a compliment. So, yeah, and yeah, I think this is a pretty good one. I think, is this Chris Chibnall's best script before he became showrunner? Possibly. I mean, I personally like Dinosaurs on a Spaceship the most, but that's a very divided opinion. I also enjoy his minisodes around Series 7 Part 1 as well, Pond Life and PS, but those aren't really counting as proper episodes. We'll see. I think actually most of his better stuff actually does come when he is showrunner, would you believe it? Then again, he's got more control over the characters, I suppose. My favourite of his, I think, must be The Woman Who Fell to Earth, ignoring the fact he co-wrote Rosa, otherwise it would be Rosa, which was co-written between him and Mallory Blackman. But as for pre-showrunner, I think it's either this or Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, which we'll get to. We'll see once we get to the Power 3, I'll make my final decision. Anyway, so that's it from me. Thank you for watching. Next time, we're actually going to take a small break from Series 3 to review The Infinite Quest before getting on to Human Nature and the Family of Blood, as I explained in my review of the Lazarus Experiment. Now, I was wondering where I should actually put The Infinite Quest in when doing it, because broadcast-wise, individual episode-wise, it would be across Series 3. Full episode, Omnibus Edition, it would be probably a few hours before Last of the Time Lords. If it was shown the same day, I would be surprised if it was shown afterwards. And if I did the review after Last of the Time Lords, it would feel a bit awkward because Martha's already left the TARDIS at the end of that story. Spoiler alert. So it would feel a bit awkward doing Infinite Quest after Series 3 is done. So it actually makes a lot of sense to put it slap bang in the middle, especially as 42 Human Nature gap is the most likely time when the story was set as far as the Doctor and Martha's chronological timelines are concerned. So next time I'm going to review The Infinite Quest slap bang in the middle of Series 3, and then we'll resume Series 3 with Human Nature and the Family of Blood. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Douglas Adams's answer to the question of everything, the question to life, the universe, which is the answer to the question of life, everything, and I can't remember the entire thing. I know it, but I can't remember it. So never mind. Pretty good audio. Anyway. Okay, so what's including Zoroastrian? Yes, no. So that's pretty cool. However, as well as also in, nevertheless, we get, never mind. And also, there's an emotional connection between her and her. There's also a connect, but I don't think there's been enough time to not even flesh them all out, but perhaps we could have known a bit more about some of the other members that we didn't, crew members. Perhaps we could have learned some more about. I don't know. I'm going to have a lot of edits around this point. Yeah, it looks like even more likely that he's not going to be such. Anyway, look, I also have to mention, despite Graham Harper directing this time round, some of the camera and some of the editing is a music cue or track by Murray Golder gets overused. That's not going to become a thing later down the line, is it? In fact, that's not certainly. He has a few, but then again, he has more time to and so. I'm going to review 40. Right, hold on. Right. The question I was trying to remember. The answer 42 is a reference. 42, of course, being a reference to the Douglas Adams' The Life Shit, I just heard it. The meaning of the universe and life. In Hitchhiker's Guide to the in his Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy novels and radio. I was trying to remember it earlier, and so I'm slotting this in to tell you. So yeah, I'm just popping this in to so I'm just popping that in